Eleanor needed a quiet place to finish her book. The city was a relentless drumbeat of noise and distraction, so when the real estate agent showed her the old house nestled deep in the countryside, it felt like a sanctuary. It stood alone, surrounded by fields that stretched to a hazy horizon, a relic from the 1950s with a certain stoic charm. The agent, a cheerful man with an easy smile, mentioned an odd quirk during the tour. The previous owner was a bit of a security fanatic, he'd said, gesturing vaguely at the walls. Had it modernized in the 70s with a network of hidden cameras. State of the art for its time, I suppose. Probably all just dead tech now. Eleanor had laughed it off. The idea of tiny, forgotten cameras in the walls was more quaint than threatening. It was a piece of the house's history, a story to tell. The first night, the silence she craved was so profound, it was almost deafening. The wind whispered through the eaves, a gentle, lonely sound. As she lay in bed trying to drift off, she heard it, a faint click, then another. It came from the corner of the room, near the ceiling. She sat up, listening. It sounded deliberate, like the shutter of a tiny, unseen camera, like something was adjusting its view. She told herself it was just the old house settling, its bones creaking with age. But the sound was too precise, too mechanical. She pulled the covers tighter, the unsettling feeling a cold spot in the pit of her stomach. The peace she had sought was already starting to feel fragile, like a thin sheet of ice over deep, dark water. The next day, the sounds followed her, a soft, mechanical whir every time she entered a new room. It was almost imperceptible, a high-frequency hum that vibrated just at the edge of hearing. Her curiosity, now tinged with a growing unease, got the better of her. She started searching. In the living room, behind a heavy, ornate mirror, she found the first one, a tiny black glass lens, no bigger than a pinhead, nestled in the plaster. It was cold to the touch. She found another inside a heating vent in the kitchen, its metallic casing glinting in the light. Another was hidden in the spine of a dusty book on the shelf. The most disturbing one was behind a framed painting of a serene landscape. The lens was positioned right where the artist would have stood, looking out over the painted hills, except it was pointed back into the room, at her. A wave of violation washed over her. This wasn't quaint history. It was an invasion. Grabbing a roll of painter's tape, she went through the house, methodically covering every lens she could find. Each piece of tape was a small act of reclamation, a statement that this was her space now. She felt a sense of control return as she pressed the blue strips over the tiny, staring eyes. That night she slept more soundly, convinced she had silenced the house's intrusive gaze. But when she woke, a cold dread seized her. The tape she had placed on the lens in her bedroom was gone, not fallen off, but removed. It was nowhere on the floor. She checked the living room, the kitchen, the hallway. All the tape was gone. And something else was wrong. The lenses. They seemed different. The one behind the mirror was now angled slightly downward, aimed directly at the armchair where she'd sat reading the night before. The one in her bedroom was now pointing perfectly toward the center of her bed, where she slept. It was a clear, unmistakable message. The house wasn't just watching her. It was actively observing, repositioning itself, refusing to be blinded. I realized the house wasn't protecting me. It was watching me. Panic began to set in. She grabbed her phone to call the real estate agent, the cheerful man who had so casually mentioned the outdated tech. She dialed his number. An automated voice answered, "The number you have dialed has been disconnected." She tried again, checking the number from the business card he'd left. Disconnected. A cold knot of isolation tightened in her chest. She was alone out here, miles from anyone. Later that evening, as she sat huddled in the living room, her laptop on the coffee table suddenly whirred to life. The screen flickered and an image appeared. It was her, sleeping. The photo was taken from a high angle, a perspective she couldn't possibly account for. It must have come from a camera she hadn't found. As she stared, horrified, the screen changed, cycling through more images of her. Reading in the chair, making coffee, staring out the window. Then a new photo appeared that made her blood run cold. It was a picture of the same living room, the same armchair she was sitting in now. But in the chair was a woman who looked strikingly, eerily like her. Same facial structure, same hair color. But the clothes were different. A floral dress and hairstyle straight out of the 1970s. The photo quality was aged, grainy. The woman in the picture was looking toward the camera, her expression unreadable. It was as if the house had a collection, a gallery of its inhabitants. And it was showing her the previous entry. A low, raspy whisper seemed to echo in the room, a voice that was both ancient and electronic. The house keeps who it likes. Desperate, Eleanor decided to fight back. She had her own camera, a small webcam she used for video calls. She set it up in the corner of her bedroom, aimed at the door, and pressed record. She would catch whoever, or whatever, was moving the lenses and accessing the system. She wouldn't sleep. She sat in bed, lights on, book in her lap, her eyes darting toward the door, her ears straining against the oppressive silence. Hours passed. Nothing. Exhaustion eventually won, and she drifted into a fitful sleep. At 3:12 a.m., a soft sound from the hallway startled her awake. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, followed by a strange metallic breathing sound like air being pushed through a rusty grate. It stopped just outside her door. She held her breath, paralyzed with fear, until the sun finally rose. With trembling hands, she opened her laptop to check the footage. The video played back the night. It showed her reading, falling asleep. Then, at exactly 3:12 a.m., the bedroom door handle turned slowly, silently. The door creaked open. A figure stepped into the room. It was humanoid in shape, but its movements were jerky, unnatural. It glided toward the bed. As it turned its head toward her sleeping form, the faint light from the window caught its face. It had no eyes, no nose, no mouth. Its face was a cluster of blinking camera lenses, all focused on her. That was it. She had to get out. She scrambled out of bed and ran for the front door, but the lock wouldn't turn. It was jammed tight. She tried the back door, the side door. All of them were sealed shut, as if fused with their frames. A low, resonant hum began to emanate from the walls, growing louder and louder until the whole house vibrated with a malevolent energy. The heating vents where she'd found the lenses began to glow with a dull, menacing red light. The house was alive, and it was trapping her. In a final, desperate act, she grabbed a heavy fireplace poker and smashed it against the living room window. The glass shattered, exploding outward. She scrambled through the jagged opening, cutting her hands and arms, not even feeling the pain. She stumbled across the lawn and didn't stop running until she reached the edge of the property. She turned back, breathing in ragged gasps. Every light in the house was on, and then they began to flicker. On, off, in a slow, deliberate rhythm, like a pair of giant, blinking eyes. The house watched her go. A few months later, a new car pulled up the long driveway. A young family excited for their new life in the country stepped out. The same real estate agent met them on the porch, his smile as wide and easy as ever. "It's a wonderful place," he said, holding the door open. "Lots of character. The previous tenant even left all her cameras behind. A writer, I believe. She found it very inspiring. The house is always watching."